Bless the Lord. Well, we've been talking about Elijah the last few weeks, and I hope you've been enjoying the study of this great man of God. And today I want us to take a little bit of time and look at one of his struggles, because Elijah struggled with depression. 1 Kings chapter 19, if you want to open your Bibles and go there. We're going to take a little time and look at his struggles. The setting. We started in 1 Kings chapter 17. We said that at that point, the nation of Israel was separated. Israel was the northern kingdom, Judah was the southern kingdom. And the northern kingdom of Israel was led by seven different kings over the past 100 years up to this point, and all 7 kings were evil. Ahab comes to the throne, and Ahab, the Bible says, did more evil than all those who had gone before him. He was a wicked man. His wife Jezebel is considered one of the most evil women of history. There comes to a point that God says, enough is enough, and God raises up a man. That man was Elijah. 1 Kings chapter 17, it says, as the Lord lives, as the Lord, the God of Israel lives, whom I serve, Elijah said, there will be neither dew nor rain for the next few years except at my word. And God brought a drought on the land of Israel. We dealt with the first week how God prepared Elijah, how he took him through a time of humbling, a time of dependence, and a time of learning obedience. The second week we dealt with a thought in chapter 18 how God used Elijah to confront the people of Israel and to tell them to stop wavering, to make a choice, either serve God or serve Baal. Make a choice. Last week we talked about prayer and how to increase the power of your prayer. And we looked at Elijah's life and we said, people who are effective in prayer know how to get alone with God. Second of all, we dealt with the thought that people who know how to, the people who are effective in prayer, pray with humility. Thirdly, we dealt with the thought that people who are effective in prayer persist in prayer. And then people who are effective in prayer pray with expectation. The prayer of a righteous man, the Bible says, is powerful and effective. 1 Kings chapter 19, looking at Elijah's struggle with depression. There's a story that's told about a man who went to the doctor. And this man comes to the doctor and says, "Doctor, I'm feeling depressed. I feel like I'm all alone in the world. I feel like this world is a terrible place." The doctor smiled and he said, "I have the answer for you, sir. It just so happens that tonight, one of the greatest comedians, one of the greatest clowns in the world is in our city, the great Trifini. All you need to do is go and sit in and watch the great Trifini perform his act, and it'll lift your spirit." The man began to cry, and he said, "I am the great Trifini." His story is part of a movie called The Dark Side of Comedy. And we know that there are comedians, and we could name them, who have struggled and even had taken their lives because of depression. Depression is no laughing matter. It is no joke. It is real. And it is real in many of our lives. Elijah, just after coming through one of the greatest victories found in the Bible, think about it. This showdown in Mount Carmel, where the whole nation is gathered there. The 450 prophets of Baal are there, and God answers by fire, and the whole nation turns back to God. How many think that's a pretty amazing day? Could you imagine if the Prime Minister called all the people of Canada together around Parliament Hill? There'd be a big crowd. Be bigger if it was Beijing and the president of China called their people around. But it called all the people around in our country, and God showed up, and the whole country repented. How many think that would be pretty cool? Be a pretty big event. Well, that's the type of event took place here. The whole nation repented. Began to holler, "The Lord is God, the Lord is God, the Lord is God." After this big victory, we find the great prophet goes into a time of depression. Interesting that a lot of times after our greatest victories comes our greatest struggles with depression. In ministry, that's one of the things they warn us about. They warn us about Mondays, particularly if things went really well on Sunday. You can struggle with depression the day after. Some of your greatest victories in life can be followed with battles with depression. 1 Kings chapter 19, starting at verse 1. Follow along with me. Now Ahab told Jezebel everything Elijah had done, and how he killed all the prophets with the sword. Ahab runs to Jezebel. The king runs to his wife. You see, at the end of Ahab's reign, Ahab had begun to become a wimp. He was abdicating his power and giving it to his wife, who was not the king. She was simply his wife, but he was becoming a wimp. I would expect that Jezebel was not an easy woman to live with. She was power hungry and she was vicious. And so Ahab comes to her after this event on Mount Carmel, and he comes and whining to her, and he says, "Look what the prophet did! He killed all your prophets for Baal." He didn't want to take the blame for it because she would have him killed. It's interesting to note that Ahab, instead of repenting with his whole nation, runs whining to his wife. Look at the next verse. So Jezebel sent a message to Elijah saying, "May the gods deal with me, be it ever so severely, if by this time tomorrow I don't make your life like that of one of them. If I don't kill you by tomorrow, may the gods judge me. Elijah, you are going to die. I'm going to take your head, man. I'm going to kill you before the sun goes down tomorrow." Look at verse 3. Elijah was afraid and ran for his life. Elijah was what? He was what? He was afraid. And what did he do? He ran. He ran for his life. Now just wait a minute. This is Elijah. Okay, think about who this man is. This isn't some commoner. It isn't like me or you. This is Elijah, Mr. Super Prophet, right? This is Elijah. This is the man who had faced off with Ahab. This is the man that had been fed by the birds in the woods, that had brought him bread and meat every day, ham sandwiches, just wonderful things that came along to him. He's the guy that when he went to the widow that had just a little bit of oil and a little bit of flour and just enough to make a little lunch and they were going to die, that he went, and when he went there, God met them in a miraculous way, and they had food enough to outlast the famine. This is Elijah. This is the man that raised the boy from the dead. This is the man that called on the name of the Lord, and it stopped raining, and he called again, and fire comes down from heaven, devours the sacrifice. He prays again, and rain starts after 3.5 years. This is Elijah. And Elijah came to a point of despair within his life. First of all, I want to deal with 4 things. 4 easy steps to become depressed. Now, that's something you could write a book with, couldn't you? Wouldn't that sell? If you wanted to be depressed, take these 4 easy steps. How many think that's a good idea? Then I'm going to look at 7 biblical secrets to control depression. I'm not going to get through all this today. Someone say thank you. But I want to get through a good part of it today. First of all, 4 easy steps to become depressed. Now, first of all, I want you to let you know that I realize that my sermon today cannot fix every bit of depression that you've ever struggled with. I'm not saying today that listen to my sermon and then go quit your meds. No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that as we go through this material, there are some things that you can practically do in your life that will help you deal with depression. There are some practical things found in the Bible that you can do that will help you deal with depression. Depression is real. I don't care who you are, how big you are, how spiritual you are, how influential you are. I don't care how good you may think you are. Depression is real. And real people, real Christians, real godly people struggle. 1 Kings 19. Let's pick it up at verse 3. Elijah was afraid and he ran for his life. When he came to Beersheba in Judah, he left his servant there, while he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness. He came to a broom bush, sat down under it, and prayed that he might die. I have had enough, Lord. He said, how many have ever been there? I've had enough, Lord. I've had it. I've had enough, Lord. Take my life. I'm no better than my ancestors. He lay down under the bush and fell asleep. 4 easy steps to become depressed. Step number 1. First step. Write these down. Somebody write them down. You may want them later. If you're not struggling today, maybe you will some other time. Number 1, wear yourself out. I like this picture. You wonder what she's screaming about. You look at that and you're just wondering. If that was my mother, she'd be screaming my name. Just at that high enough pitch that, kind of shatters all the glass around. Now, if she was my wife, she'd probably still be screaming my name. Let's go to the next picture. How many have ever felt like this? We upgraded our computers to Windows 10. And Windows 10 has been the greatest selling point for Macs that's ever come across. Anything that Mac has done, they've never outdone Windows 10. That's better than the young guy and the old bald guy, right? I'm a PC. Well, I'm a Mac. It's better than that. Windows 10 has outdone even that advertisement. Our computer locked up today. I was adding another point in my sermon. I woke up this morning, I got to add another point to my sermon. And I got it all done, finished it all up, getting ready to print it off, and you'd think it was Windows 95. Control, Alt, Delete wouldn't even work. Number 1, wear yourself out. If you wanted to be depressed, wear yourself out. Now think about Elijah. He'd been on a 3.5-year spiritual mission. It has been intense. He's been trusting God. He's been praying. He's been seeking God. He's been battling the enemy. And he's been praying some more and battling the enemy and fighting and praying and seeking and praying and working and trying and calling upon the name of God. He's been doing this now for 3.5 years, and he's wore himself out. And right when he's at the very point of wearing himself out to the very last thread, Old Jezebel comes and says, now I'm going to kill you. And he became overwhelmed. Have you ever said that's a straw that's going to break the camel's back in your life? Slip your hand up. You've had a few of those. They come your way once in a while, sometimes once a week. And what does he do? He heads south. Mount Carmel you have there. And there was something about that he wanted to go south. And he probably looked at his compass. I don't know if they had compasses then. North, south, east, or west. Which way do I want to go? And he was feeling down, so he started heading down. And sometimes we begin to go down. And he was going down in his spirits. And he started to run. He ran down all the way. He traveled all the way down through the northern kingdom, the blue part of Israel. He traveled all the way down until he got as far down in his country as he could get down. And then he crosses the border and goes into the land of Judah. And he travels down to Beersheba. And Beersheba was known for being the furthest southern city in that nation. So he goes as far down as he could possibly go in the next country. And he gets down as far as he can get down. He stops and goes another day's journey into the wilderness. What I want you to see is this guy was going down. Down. Depression. Down. He went down as far as he could go down. Then he went down some more. And when far as he could go down in the next country, he goes down even a day's journey farther. He was down. And his journey ends up under a broom tree. And there he is. He's spiritually exhausted. He's emotionally exhausted. He's burned out. And now he's run. And there's a broom bush. Not a pretty thing. And he runs and he goes until he's physically exhausted. Have you been there by times? And he comes to the end of himself. And he stops there. Sometimes we wonder why we're depressed. Well, maybe it's because we simply worn ourselves out. Maybe it's because we've gone and gone and gone 7 days a week until you've come to the point we've got nothing left, and then you keep on going. Maybe you get down because you simply worn yourself out. Maybe you're trying to work 2 jobs, and maybe you're a single mom, or maybe you're a military mom, and your husband is posted away, and then he's back again, he's posted away, and you're trying to do a job and take care of the kids and cook the meals, and you're trying to do everything, and after a while you wear yourself out. Slip your hand up if you've been there. There's a couple of us have been there. We were pastoring in Windsor, and we decided it was a bright idea to build a parsonage. And I said, okay, I'll be the contractor. I love building. I've got some experience in building. And I'll subcontract some out, and then I'll get the church people to volunteer, and I'll oversee the whole thing. Great idea. It was about 3 months. It took about 40 hours a week working on the building. I also did 40 hours a week working in the church. I didn't slow down my church work. Can I tell you, about the 3rd month into it, actually about the 2nd month, I was young, stupid, but about the 2nd month into it, I wasn't very nice. I wasn't very nice to my wife. How do you think I get a sweet wife? The rest of you get your hands up. I became really miserable and angry. Because I was burning myself out. It wasn't a smart idea. If you wanted to be depressed, wear yourself out. It's a good idea. Number 2, if you want to be depressed, shut people out of your life. Look what he does to his closest friend. Chapter 19, verse 3. It says, when he came to Beersheba in Judah, he left his servant there. What should you do when you're overwhelmed? If you want to be depressed, Isolate yourself from your friends. Push your friends aside. Think of yourself more highly than you ought to and think, well, I can get through this. I'm strong. No, you're not. You're a wimp. Depression can beat you every time. You can't outmuscle depression. It'll beat you. It'll beat you hard. Isolate yourself from your friends. Think to yourself, well, I'm really a loner. No, you're not. You need people. I'm okay. No, you're not. You're lying. You're lying to yourself. In dealing with depression, the greatest tool for dealing with depression is your safety net. Having people around you, having someone to talk to, having friends to support you. That's one of the reasons the church, being a part of a church, is important. So you can develop friendships with individuals so that when you go through difficult times, you can feel supported. Wear yourself out. Shut people out. Number 3, focus on the negative. That's not always a good thing to do. That's a fantastic thing to do. If you want to be depressed, focus on the negative. Look what he says, verse 4. I've had enough, Lord. Take my life. I'm no better than my ancestors. I'm no better than my ancestors. They were all bad and I'm bad too. I'm no better than my ancestors. Well, nobody was really asking him about his ancestors. He just gets looking at his ancestors, he gets looking at himself and begins to feel sorry for himself. I'm just like the rest of them. I'm just a bum. I'm just like the rest of them. I'll never amount to anything. I'm just like the rest of them. I'm not going to be any good for you, God. I'm no good. Oh, poor me. Great thing to do if you want to be depressed. Focus on all the negative. Do you know self-pity is always negative and always exaggerates? Self-pity says, I'm never going to be any good. Self-pity says, I'm never going to get ahead. Is that true? Probably not. Self-pity says, things are never going to go my way. You know the best place to go if you want to feel really good self-pity? Best place to go, 2 rooms. One is a bathroom. The other is a bedroom. Some of you ladies will really relate to this. Some of you guys will relate to this as well. You're overwhelmed and you feel sorry for yourself. Run into the room that has the biggest mirror and cry. Cry until your eyes are all bloodshot, then look in the mirror and say, yeah, the world really is mean to me. And you look so bad and it makes you feel so good. And if you really want to get the self-pity going, work yourself up to a really good cry, run into the washroom, slam the door, and look at yourself in the mirror. If you want to be depressed, right? That's what we're talking about. If you want to be depressed, here's what you do. Wear yourself out, shut out people, and begin to feel sorry for yourself and think of all the negatives around you. Number 4, if you want to be depressed, forget God. This is exactly what Elijah did. And it's what we do as well. A lot of times, we'll forget God in the midst of it. Think about all the things that God had done for him. Think about the supernatural provision. Think about the ravens that came. Think about the boy that was raised from the dead and the fire that came from heaven. Oh God, I just know that you're not going to come through for me this time. I just know that I'm not going to make it. I know that Jezebel is going to take my head. I just know things are going to go bad. Can I say, don't forget about God. How many have known that God has taken you through sometimes? He's pulled you through some difficult times. How many of God could say, well, God has failed me? Anybody? How many could say, I failed God a few times? Right? But you've never had God ever fail you. God has the ability to bring you through. He can take you through what you're going through today or what you may be going through tomorrow. There's an old song, and it goes something like this. Well, hasn't he always come through for you? He's the same now as then. You may not know how, you may not know when, but he'll do it again. Isn't that the truth? How many know that song? He can do it again. He's brought you through before. He's taken you through some rough times. God can do it again. You just need to look to God. Listen, if you want to be depressed, wear yourself out. If you want to be depressed, shut people out. If you want to be depressed, focus on the negative and feel sorry for yourself and forget about God. But listen, if you look to God, God can do it again. He can bring you through. He can lift up your spirit, and He can give you strength one more time. He can do it again for you. We're going to look at 7 secrets from the Bible to control depression. I want to tell you, depression is a real issue. It really is. 1 out of 5 adult Canadians will suffer a mental health disorder in their lives. Now, let me say that again. It's actually 21.3% of adult Canadians will suffer from a mental disorder like anxiety disorder, like depression disorder, like personality disorder. 1 out of 5. What do we have in this room? 120? 25 people here today will struggle with this. It's a real issue. It isn't something that's out there. It's a real issue. But this I can say, the Bible is not a bunch of fairy tales. It's a real book about real people with real problems, and it brings real hope in our time of real need. The Bible actually provides answers for us when we're going through difficult times. This message may very well be for you today. Maybe you're going through this. And God has brought you here today for this very reason. Because God wants to bring help into your life. Maybe you're feeling a little blue. Maybe you're feeling depression. Maybe it's full-blown depression. Maybe you've come to the place where you're feeling hopeless inside your heart. But I can tell you, God can do it again in your life. And He can bring you through. 7 biblical secrets to control depression. I'm not going to get through them all, but let me get through a few of them. Elijah, he lost hope. He was hiding out. He wants to die. God sends an angel to him. And what does the angel do to deal with him? God sends this angel, and the angel, what do you think the angel is going to do? The angel is going to come up and say, "You ought to be ashamed of yourself, little boy." Is that what the angel does? It isn't. The angel may, you'd think that he'd come and say, "Where's your faith? Stand up, Mr. Man of God, Mr. Big Man on Mount Carmel. Come on, get up." That isn't what the angel does. Maybe you should have memorized a few more scriptures. You wouldn't struggle with this depression. That isn't what the angel does. The angel doesn't come with condemnation. The angel doesn't come to slap him down. Doesn't come and say, "Well, make a bridge and get over it, sir. What do you want me to do, call the wham-ambulance?" No, that isn't what he does. Look what the scripture says. Verse 5. Then he lay down into the bush and fell asleep. All at once, an angel touched him and said, "Get up and eat." He looked around, and there by his head was some baked bread. Bread baked over hot coals, and a jar of water. And he ate and drank and then lay down again. The first point is this. If you want to battle depression, you need to eat right. Now look at the picture here. He's laying down sleeping. Someone comes over and shakes him a little bit. Hey, wake up, wake up. And he wakes up, and it's an angel. The angel has made fresh bread. And he cooked it over a fire and put a stone on the fire and then cooked the bread in that stone. I really like fresh homemade bread. I remember coming home when I was a child, my mom would be making bread. There's 3 of us boys, and then my sister came along a little bit after, but I tell you what, we could devour homemade bread. But look at the gentleness of God. This messenger from God does not condemn him. Can I tell you, if you're struggling right now, God is not condemning you. God is not beating you up, so stop beating up yourself. God is not putting him down, condemning him, is not belittling him. But God comes and brings comfort to him. This angel makes the bread. And it struck me this morning that he sets it right beside his head. The smell was there. The smell that he knew from his childhood, the smell that brought comfort, the smell that just brought something within him. God was using a little bit of aromatherapy. And the smell just came into him, just seemed to bring some strength into his body. I want you to see a God of compassion for a prophet who was down. I want you to see a God who loved this guy, and God seen him wandering all the way and going down and going down and going down until he ran to right into the wilderness, into his wilderness experience, and a God that knew where he was at, and a God who went and came to him and came and in some way tried to revive his spirits again. That's the God we serve. It's not the God that beats you up when you're down. That's the devil that beats you up when you're down. The God that tries to lift you up when you're down. That's the God we serve. And he says, here, eat this. Verse 5, get up and eat. I like this point. I like eating. Anybody here slip a hand up? You agree with me? This is a spiritual thing. We love to eat. Get up and eat. Get up and have some fresh homemade bread. Get up and have something to eat. My first point is this. We need to eat right. If we want to battle depression, can I tell you one of the best things you can do is start to eat right. Eat the right type of food. Notice it was a nice loaf of bread. It wasn't a jelly-filled donut, okay? It was not a case of chocolate bars. Someone brought me a Snickers bar today. I talked about Snickers last week. It wasn't a case of chocolate bars. He didn't come and bring him a Big Mac. How many know there's nothing good in a Big Mac? I've avoided those things for a few years. But can I tell you this? Your food affects the way you feel. If you fill your body with garbage, you'll feel like garbage. I can prove this. Go have a Big Mac. You eat a Big Mac every day, let that be your meal, you'll feel rotten. You eat right, it will boost you and you'll begin to feel right. Eat the right types of food. Can I say this from a pastor's perspective? Stop medicating yourself. Stop self-medicating yourself with food. Stop trying to medicate away your depression with food. You know that we self-medicate ourselves, right? When you're feeling down, you'll run to something and you'll get something to try to make yourself feel better. Jelly donuts, right? Okay? Don't do that. People do this in so many ways. People self-medicate themselves. Sometimes people do shopping. That's the expensive way to do it. You're feeling down, you want to go shopping. You buy a bunch of stuff and you bring it home, you don't tell your spouse. If you're a teenager, you don't tell your parents. Some people self-medicate with alcohol. They do it because they're depressed. They're feeling down, they need a drink. The problem with that is, do you know that alcohol is a depressant? How many knew that? Okay, good. Those that didn't, talk to any of these people, put their hand up. Alcohol is a depressant. You drink it, you feel up. When you come down, you go down lower because it's depressant. And so you have some more and you come up and you go down. And you keep working your way down, deeper and deeper. It's not a good idea. That isn't God's plan. God's plan isn't to self-medicate. People use drugs. I've been surprised how many people I've come across who are Christians that are addicted to drugs. It surprises me. Drugs they buy off the street corner. Drugs they get from going to several doctors. Get multiple prescriptions. Drugs they borrow from one of their friends that has drugs. Oh, I need some pills. Can I come over to your house? Self-medicating. Over-the-counter drugs. I've dealt with people who have been addicted to over-the-counter drugs, and I don't know what they were, and I don't care to even know. Self-medicating yourself. It's not good. It's not healthy. People self-medicate themselves with sexual sin. People self-medicate themselves with video games. People self-medicate themselves, try to drown out their depression with food. Sometimes it's binge eating, sometimes it's bulimia, sometimes it's anorexia, sometimes it's junk food, sometimes it's when you're depressed, you got to run off to a restaurant. The Daniel plan. This is something I'd love to do in the new year. Rick Warren has a diet plan that actually just tells you how to eat a balanced meal. Nothing rocket science. Eat lots of fruit, eat lots of vegetables. Avoid junk. And for some people, something like this may help them. Because if you eat right, it'll help you feel better. And when you feel better, depression will be less constant in your life. Number 2, sleep right. He ate and drank and lay down again. He went back to sleep. Our bodies need rest. One of the most difficult things that we can have is the inability to sleep. If you want to be depressed, stop sleeping. Stay up all night. Watch TV half the night. If you want to break depression in its cycle within your life, go to bed early. Did you know that the hours before 12 are more important in your sleep than the hours after 12? Go to bed early. Get lots of sleep. Our bodies need rest. Sometimes we go, and we need to stop. Sometimes we want to burn the candle at both ends. But can I tell you, that doesn't work very long because you'll burn yourself out. Some people say, well, I'd rather burn out than rust out. Neither one is a good idea. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is rest. In fact, the command that we probably most often disobey is the command to take 1 day a week and rest. 1 day a week and stop. 1 day a week and set everything aside. Take 1 day a week and spend it with God and with your family and make it a fun day. How many remember years ago when we had a Sabbath Sunday, the Lord's Day, and you weren't allowed to have any fun on Sunday? Anybody remember back then? Oh yeah. The bikes went away, the games went away, you weren't allowed to smile. Mom and Dad went up and went to bed and had a nap, and you had to be like mice. You couldn't make any noise. I had to go stand in the corner. You weren't allowed to do anything. That was never God's intention for the Sabbath. God's intention for the Sabbath was for us to take one day a week and pretend we're in heaven. Pretend that we don't have to work on Monday. Pretend we don't have to do anything. Pretend that life now is you're living in the millennial kingdom where you're ruling and reigning with Christ, that everything is perfect. And you have no more worries. That's what's God's intent. God's intention was to take one day and stop worrying about that. You know what? The grass can go unmowed. The laundry can stay in the basket. The dishes can stay in the dishwasher or in the sink. It's okay. Take a day off and take a break. If you want to beat depression, rest. Take a day off. Go to bed early, but then take a day off once a week and enjoy yourself. Have fun with your kids. Have fun with your spouse. Get outside. Enjoy some fresh air. Have some fun in life. Because we need to rest. We need to take a day off. Number 3, exercise. Verse 7. The angel of the Lord came back to him a second time and touched him and said, "Get up and eat, for the journey is too much for you." So he got up and ate and drank. Strengthened by the food, he traveled 40 days and 40 nights. He went on a long walk. Maybe that's a long walk. 40 days and 40 nights. I'm sure that he had naps in between. I'm sure that he didn't walk constantly 40 days and 40 nights, but he traveled a long ways. He went on a long walk. Do you know that walking is one of the best exercises you can do? It's one of the best for your body. Online at gov.au, which is a little different than gov.ca because this is up from Australia. And they did a study and they found that walking 30 minutes most days a week. How many like most days a week? That's much better than every day a week. Walking 30 minutes most days of the week does this. It increases your heart fitness. It increases your lung fitness. It reduces the risk of heart disease, of stroke, of high blood pressure, of high cholesterol. It reduces the risk of joint pains and muscle pains and diabetes. Strengthens your bones, improves your balance, increases your strength, increases your endurance, and reduces your fat. I think that's a pretty good list. I could use all those. How about you? Every one of them I could use. And the key to it, they said, is you had to walk a brisk walk. And a brisk walk was a walk fast enough, walk that was slow enough that you still could talk. Talk with ease. But it's fast enough that you couldn't sing. Maybe in Australia they don't want people walking in the morning and singing. I'm not sure. But that's what they're supposed to do. And if you do this, it'll work all these wonderful things in your life if you just exercise a little bit most days of the week. I came across a study, one of the books I've read recently, on depression. This study said this. The study took a select group. They divided them up into 3 categories. Number 1, the first group of depressed people they gave meds to. The second group, they had them exercise. The third group, they had them exercise and take meds. They went for a period of time and then checked them out. The group that took meds and the group that simply exercised and did nothing else, the ones that exercised outperformed those who took meds in a large percentage. You think that's pretty cool? And those who did both slightly outperformed those who just exercised. Do you know that exercise is good for your mental health? How many here go to the gym? Slip your hand up. There you go. Come on, hold it up. Don't be ashamed of it. There you go. Get your hand up. You people who go to the gym regular, if you start missing the gym, do you notice it? Big difference. Anybody else? If you miss the gym, somebody else, do you notice it? Yep. Okay. You know why? Because your body is getting the strength, and you start missing it, and you start feeling sluggish and can I tell you? You want to beat depression? Listen. 1, eat right. 2, sleep right. 3, get out and exercise. Do something. Number 4, go back to church. Get in touch with God. Reach out and meet with God. If you want to beat depression, get in touch with God. Verse 8, so to get up, ate and drank, strengthened by the food, he traveled 40 days and 40 nights until he reached Horeb, the mountain of God. Question for you. What do these locations have in common? Horeb, Mount Sinai, Mount Paran, and the mountain of God. Do you know what these all have in common? They're all that place right there. They're all the same name for a different name for a same location. He said, I'm going to take you on a journey. I'm going to take you back in time. I'm going to take you someplace where one of your ancestors met with God. Moses. This is the place that Moses went up on. It was this mountain that he went up on. And God spoke to him and gave him the 10 Commandments. This is the mountain that he walked up, and the cloud descended around him, and God came down and stood beside him, and he felt God's presence as near as a person could feel another person, and God told him to write these things down. It was a place that he knew you could meet with God. God took him someplace, to the location that he knew that if I could get to him to this location, it means something. It's that place that means something. A place you can meet with God. If you want to beat depression, if you want to overcome depression, if you want to get through it, you need to get to a place you can meet with God. And God can come and strengthen you. For us, that's church. For some people here, it's a certain location in the church. Sometimes it's a certain seat in the church, because that seat means something to you. You know, we say, well, you shouldn't, that's all right. You don't have to sit in the same place all the time. But sometimes you just feel something about that location. Slip a hand up, you know what I'm talking about. There's just that location, because God has touched you there before. You sense God's presence there, and there's something comfortable about it. There should be something comfortable about getting back to church again and reaching in and somehow reaching into God's presence and receiving a touch. If you feel like not going to church, can I tell you that's probably what you need to do, is go to church. Back in 1994, I was struggling with burnout. One of the few times. I've been through it enough. I've fought depression enough that I've been there. I came to a point of depression and burnout. I was pastoring in Windsor at the time. And I came to the point when I wanted to give up. I wanted to quit. I wanted to say, that's enough. I've done my part, God. Now take somebody else. But I knew enough that you don't quit when you feel depressed. You take a vacation. You need rest. So I took a time of rest, and I went home to New Brunswick. And while I was there, my wife said, I'm going to church tonight. It was a midweek prayer meeting. How many know pastors on vacation are not required to go to midweek prayer meetings? Okay, it's not required. There's nowhere, Pastor Kevin, there's nowhere it's written in the contract. You are off. You don't have to go to Bible study when you're on vacation. And I said, no, I don't think so. Oh, come on. And I went. I sat through the service. And after the service, a friend of mine, Paul, he said, Carmen, it's good to see you. Come on up. I want to pray for you. I came forward. He laid his hands on me and he prayed. In that place I didn't want to be, I received a touch from God that day. And it changed my ministry. It changed who I was. God showed up in a powerful way. And we had some real fantastic points in the Windsor Church. I go back, the people say, Pastor, do you remember when? Yes, I remember when. That was right after I had that meeting with God. Because I came back filled, changed, rejuvenated. Because I went to church when I didn't feel like going. I'm not sure where you are today. Invite the team to come forward. I'm not sure where you are today, but can I tell you this? Some of you have been working on depression. That's what you've been doing. You've been working away trying to get yourself depressed. Let me tell you what you've been doing. I've got it in my notes someplace. I've got more notes to go. There it is. I'll pick up the rest of this next week. Some of you, this is what you've been doing. You've been wearing yourself out. You've been shutting out people. You've been focusing on the negative, and you forgot about God. That's what some of us have done. But this is what God wants you to do. He wants you to stop that. He wants you to begin to eat right this week. Stop the binging. Put the junk food away. And start to eat right. Because he wants you to win over depression. Number 2, he wants you to sleep right. Number 3, he wants you to start to exercise. Number 4, he wants you to get alone with him so he can talk to you. That particular bout, 1996, all it took for my depression to be broken was God to speak to me. The voice of God counteracted all the enemy had done in my life. It stopped it. And God's presence came back in like a flood. You need to meet with God. Stand with me.